Hi, thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. Um, Thanks for that introduction. So I have a lot of passion for like the blockchain technology and the stuff that's happening currently in the space. So to kind of give you just a high-level overview, actually probably would have been good to do the blockchain fundamentals before my presentation, but um, so blockchain is really an enabling technology, kind of like how databases are an enabling technology. We lived without databases for a long time, but then once you get that concept of databases and what they can provide, it's really hard to go back. And blockchain, I see, is very similar in that way. And also, I think it's going to take decades for this blockchain technology to really mature and infiltrate throughout society. I mean, if you look at the database world, databases are still evolving. It's been 50 years, since we first came up with databases, but there's still new innovation happening, and I think we'll see that happen in the blockchain world as well. And how many of you use the database today? Everybody should be raising their hand, because whether you know it or not, you've used the database. And that's the same way I think things are going to happen with blockchain. Is it's really a back-end technology where eventually it's going to get immersed into a lot of applications that you'll be using, and without you actually even realizing, you'll be interacting with some blockchain somewhere. And right now, the applications that we can build with it are really limited by the amount of scalability that these blockchains can handle. So, you don't want to do everything with a blockchain. I mean, it's a much larger system, a lot more redundancy and duplication of data and so forth. So if you can get away with a centralized system doing that, that's probably more efficient, but it does provide you a lot of benefits to have redundancy and duplication of data, but it comes with the scaling problem. And so right now, our applications are effectively limited by how much we can scale databases or blockchains. So the core use cases for blockchain is really value transfer, being able to transfer something over a network that has value attached with it, right? So the example is like, we've been using the internet to transfer files, photos, things like that, but whenever I transfer that, I maintain a copy, and the person that received it also gets a copy. Well, you don't want to do that with something of value, right? So if I transfer some money to you over the internet, I shouldn't also keep a copy of that, right? So blockchains help us do that. Also, another big use case is smart contracts, which essentially sort of adds programmability to money. So like one way to think about it is if you've ever used like Kickstarter, how somebody can put a project up or raise money for that project, and if it reaches a certain threshold within a certain amount of time, then the person gets the money and can spend it on their project. But if it doesn't hit that limit, the money goes back to everybody who contributed. Now, Kickstarter takes, I think, like 7 to 10% cut out of that for doing that. Well, you could do something like that with a smart contract, right? So the money gets sent to a smart contract. You could have it programmed so that if it reaches a certain threshold, then the money goes to the one account. If it doesn't, then the money gets resent back to all the contributors. So it adds this ability to program to money. And also another big area is record keeping. So it provides data replication, provides high availability, provides immutability. So a lot of these really good features that you want in systems. So the low-hanging fruit for blockchain applications has really been like currency and coins and tokens. In fact, the whole space kind of started with Bitcoin being introduced back in 2009, and people initially didn't recognize the technology behind Bitcoin, and so it actually took us a few years to recognize that, hey, it's not just about a cryptocurrency, it's really the technology behind it is very important. And so over time, people have started to recognize that. And now we're starting to build a lot of different applications and use it in a lot of different ways. One of the things that has come out recently is the ability to do stable coins. So like cryptocurrencies fluctuate a lot in value, but you can actually have a stable coin that is collateralized by a currency that fluctuates a lot in value, but still maintain a stable value. And you do that all through smart contracts, which is really, really cool. Other things are what's called app coins, which is basically coins that are used to be able to use a certain application. Imagine if you had something like Match.com, and Match.com had a Match.com coin, and so to use their service, you need to spend that coin. So those kind of things are coming out. For enterprises, I think one of the things that where these kind of coins and tokens could be used is for internal budget tracking, right? So think of like really large organizations that have like multinational offices, and they've got vendors in different countries, employees in different countries. They're constantly having to convert between currencies. Well, if they use an internal currency, they can avoid a lot of that hassle. So I think J.P. Morgan has started to do something like that and created their own coin. Also, securities. The state of Delaware has passed a legislation that says that you can tokenize your stocks, your securities and equities. So eventually you're going to start to see that happen with, our stock markets are going to look like tokens, instead of shares that you keep only at your broker, you'll actually be able to take possession of your shares or transfer them however you want, anytime you want. Governments could actually use this to issue their own currencies, right? One of the biggest problems for governments is preventing counterfeit. Well, blockchain helps you prevent that, right? So nobody can make copies of, it's not just a piece of paper that you have to make a copy of, it's actually a ledger that you'd have to modify, and you'd have to modify, hundreds of them in order to do some counterfeit. And then assets, tokenizing assets like titles, property titles, vehicle titles, all these things, and putting them on blockchains. So some of the public applications that are already happening, and these things are evolving very rapidly. People have started to build exchanges. There's exchanges which are actually decentralized, meaning that you don't even have to turn over your assets to an exchange in order to participate and do conversions on that exchange. Another area is like resource sharing. We all have lots of computer disk space or computer cycles that we can contribute. Well, you could create a big network where people can use tokens to buy and sell computer resources. That's also like trickling into like energy, right? So like when you have energy grids, some areas of the grid are producing more energy than they need, other areas need more energy, so they can pay each other and buy that energy as needed. makes the whole system more efficient. And then there's other like very interesting applications. There's a project out there called the Basic Attention Token, and it's really revolutionizing how advertising works on the internet. What they've done is they've actually built a browser that has a token and a wallet embedded in it. And as you go to websites, it knows what websites you went to, how much time you spent on it, but all that data is held locally. It's not sent to any third party or server. And based on that, it shows you advertisements related to what sites you're on, and you actually receive tokens for seeing the advertisements. So this is the first time where the user is not just being used anymore. They're actually, getting paid, right? So before it was, you had the publisher, the the website, and you had the middleman in between, like Google, and these three were, exchanging the money. But now you have the user also being able to take a cut of that. So you can actually download, there's a browser called Brave. If you go to brave.com, you can download that browser. You can start participating in that system right now, today. There's also another one, it's called Steemit, which is actually a social media blogging system. It's kind of like, Medium is more popular, but Steemit is similar to that. You can blog about stuff, people can upvote your articles, you actually receive compensation for that in terms with Steemit tokens. You can post comments, people like your comments, you can get credit for that. And there's a website called stateofthedapps.com, and there's over 1,500 decentralized applications out there already. On a daily basis, there's 40,000 people using these dApps. So it's growing very fast, but still, you can see we're still in the very early stages of this. Now, on the enterprise side, there's a whole lot of different industries that are going to be impacted by blockchain technology. This is probably not even a comprehensive list, but healthcare in terms of patient records, insurance, being able to, already I think there's some project out there that's offering insurance for like flight insurance, where like if you can buy insurance that if you miss your flight or weather prevents you from being able to go to where you want, then you compensated. Retail, entertainment, transportation, all these areas are going to get impacted by blockchain technology. Almost anywhere where databases are being used, blockchain is also going to be used there. So previously, companies were very siloed and had a very siloed database. Now we can have all these databases interconnected, and we don't just have to send files over between companies to reconcile our databases. We're literally sharing the same database, but different people have different access to it. I'll just take like government as one of the examples of it. How could governments, what are the applications that they could use? So one is currency. Governments could actually issue their currency on a blockchain. Another is titles. Governments are handling records for land title, property title, vehicle titles. We could use it for voting. Once we get over the identity problem. You could use it for licensing. You can use it for issuing identities. So there's a lot of different applications, and this talk just doesn't give you enough time to really go into a lot of that. But the area that I'm really excited about is the future applications when the technology really gets going, when we have like really scalable blockchains. We could actually see something like a universal global stable currency that just about everybody around the world uses. We could have global self-sovereign identity, where it is even like at a higher level than the identities issued by each government. We could have global direct communication. Right now, all our communications is siloed and, provided by centralized companies. We could have a very decentralized communication system. And these kind of global applications are going to have, billions of daily active users. They're going to need millions of transactions going over these networks at the same time. Our technology is not there right now. And that's one of the things that, we have to work towards is advancing this technology. And I think one of the key elements of doing that is incorporating sharding into blockchain technology. Most of the current systems do not have sharding at all. And once we're able to incorporate that, then we can achieve what's called linear scaling, which means that as you add more nodes to the network will be able to process more or hold more capacity in terms of storage, and the network can grow based on the load that's being put on it simply by adding more nodes to the network. And the project that I'm working on called Shardus is working towards achieving this. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, and if you need to contact me, you can write to Omar at shardus.com.
Can you share like one example of a typical demo app that you're using to show your?
We'll have a panel discussion.
Later?
Yeah,
Okay.
later, yeah.
Okay.
All right,
A little bit short. Thank you.
all righty. Thank you very much.